Chapter 3. Amos's Warning. Amos had been feeling poorly the last year, and I noticed he was more tired than normal. By January, Amos had to give up diving altogether. Now he could only look on as Jack and I slipped into the clear water and slowly drifted down to the bottom without him. Jack and I work the equipment on the ocean floor, and Amos operates the boat above. Today, with the wind rising and rain squalls beating across the sea surface, it looked as though we might have to call off the dive. On the horizon, huge swells were advancing one after the other. Somewhere out at sea a storm was churning, sending angry feelers all the way to our coastal beaches. "I don't like the look of those low clouds to the north," said Amos, peering over the boat's rising and falling bow. "There's a big rain coming, probably a good wind too," he added. "Amos, you're just getting old," Jack laughed. "We aren't going to let a little blow stop us from finding gold today, are we?" "Jack, my boy, I've been sailing these seas since your mamma was a little girl, and I've learned to never underestimate the Atlantic Ocean. When one of these winter squalls hits, it's like a freight train roaring down on you. One minute the sea is sunny and calm, the next the rain is pouring down and the waves kick up to 10 feet high or more." Jack and I respect Amos almost like a father. It's hard not to like the old man. He looks like Santa Claus, complete with a white hair and a beard. He's always laughing and joking, even when he feels bad. "Well, then, we'd better start getting the anchors ready," Amos called over the sound of the twin Evinrude outboard engines pushing us along. "Wayne, check those ropes. We don't want to have the boat break loose today, drift when you and Jack are on the bottom. With this strong current running, you'll never be able to get back aboard before I lose sight of you." I looked at the sea passing beneath us as we climbed one swell after another. Amos steered the boat to 45 degrees into each wave to keep us from being pounded by rough water. As the boat ran uphill into the swell, the engines strained tightly, and then as we went down the backside, the props momentarily bit air instead of water and roared their protest at running at 100% power. I loved it. The wind was cool in my face, and the sea water splashed over the side, wetting me from head to foot. I wondered if Baby and his family would join us on a stormy day like this, as I looked for signs of dolphins in the rough sea. They were nowhere to be seen. I looked from north to south, and except for a huge oil tanker out about 5 miles, we were alone on the sea. I felt the first tinge of uneasiness, but didn't know why. Without Baby, the day just would not be complete. "How do you think those Spanish sailors felt as they sailed this area back in 1715?" asked Jack. "They had no engines, no radios, only a compass and sails. Can you imagine a 140-mile-per-hour wind shrieking through the rigging, toppling masts and ripping sails to shreds? Those guys were real sailors. Look around. We're the only ones at sea today. Everybody else is home watching TV or shopping at the malls. I say let's dive and get treasure." Amos smiled through his stained beard, his missing back teeth showing clearly. "Jack, if you and Wayne want adventure, then you shall have it. I was just about to say it's too dangerous to turn back, but then I remember how we used to ride out the big storms at sea and laugh at them. You're right, we've become too soft and civilized." It was clear to me that Amos was feeling his best days were behind him, and he wanted to capture one more great adventure. I watched the shore carefully, finally locating the marks we used to triangulate our exact position. We were using a Lauren electronic device to get pretty near the spot, but it had an error margin of about a quarter mile. We had thought about keeping a floating marker over our salvage site, but it would only invite others to steal what we had worked so hard to uncover. Our treasure site was in 70 feet of water, requiring us to keep a close watch on our bottom time. This was to prevent us from getting the bends caused by too much nitrogen in our body tissues, which could result in paralysis or even death. We would be able to stay down 45 minutes the first dive, rest on the surface for an hour, and then dive for another 35 minutes. Chapter 4. Gold and Jewels. "This is it! Drop anchor!" called Amos. Jack let the bow anchor drop with a splash. It had to go down 70 feet and be dragged in the sand until flukes bit and held. We needed the treasure hunter to be right over the wreck site. Because the running sea could swing the boat back and forth, we also had to set 2 stern anchors, one from the port side and one from the starboard side. Once we had all 3 anchors set, We used a hydraulic pulley to drag the boat between the two stern anchors until it sat directly above the sight. With the anchors holding, the boat stayed pretty much in the same spot. We dropped down a big air pressure operated vacuum called an airlift to suck sand from the wreck site. It works by air being pumped through a small tube along the 6-inch flexible hose line to create a vacuum at the nozzle. It is always a lot of hard work to stabilize the boat, get the equipment in place, and then dive with the metal detectors to locate the areas from which we want to vacuum the sand. Today, with the high swells running, getting the anchor set and the airlift down was harder than usual. I began to wonder if we had not let our spirit of adventure overcome our common sense. Finally, we had all 3 anchors set. Jack and I put on our wetsuits, pulled on our scuba tanks, and adjusted our lead-weight belts, and sat down, facing each other on opposite sides of the boat. I gave a thumbs-up sign, and I was ready to go. Jack smiled, put his mouthpiece in, and returned the sign. I dropped backward into the sea off the starboard side. Jack went in from the port side. As soon as I hit the water, I pointed head down, kicked my fins, and started for the bottom. I looked over to my left and saw Jack diving straight down, streaming a tail of bubbles from his regulator. Down, down we went until the ocean floor came into view. The visibility was good as we leveled off over the place where the cannon were lying side by side, just as they had been since 1715. The huge airlift pipe was rising and falling as the boat above went up and down in the swells. The last time we worked the site, I had found a hot spot that made the metal detectors sing our favorite song. As soon as we got the airlift nozzle in place, Jack held it over the sand and turned on the handle that let compressed air from the boat blast down and create a vacuum effect. Sand and small objects were sucked up into the hose and deposited on a wire mesh catcher screen on the boat's rear deck, where Amos was watching for anything that might be valuable. Jack and I looked on as the sand was lifted away and the hole grew deeper. With the sand rising into the hose, I examined every clump that was uncovered. There were ancient fossilized seashells of every size, wearing down over the centuries to become sand. Dark rocks came into view, and I held them close to my face mask to see if they were artifacts or coin clusters. They were only rocks and more rocks. It was truly a treasure hunt. The next moment we might find silver or gold, or perhaps nothing. For 25 minutes we scoured the area, stopping to use the detectors to be sure it still indicated metal somewhere under the sand. Suddenly the whine rose in intensity when I placed the detector loop on the sand. I miss Baby's curious eyes watching my every move. It just was not the same without him. The whine grew louder and louder. There had to be something down there. Jack turned on the airlift again and moved the nozzle back and forth, causing the sand to rise into it like a small tornado. Then I saw a glint of metal and immediately reached over and shut off the suction. Jack saw it too. We had fanned the bottom where we saw the glint, but the sand caved into the hole and covered it. We both continued to fan carefully, stopping to stick our fingers into the soft sand to feel for an object. I checked my watch. 30 minutes had passed and my air supply gauge indicated 500 pounds left. It was time to surface. Jack glanced at his air gauge and then looked at me and made a throat-cutting motion. He was nearly out of air. Just at that moment, a gold chain with a large carved links came into view in the sand. I fanned around it, slipped my left hand under it, and pulled gently to remove it from its 277-year-old grave. The long chain came out slowly, inch by inch, for about 2 feet. Then it caught tight. Jack's air tank went dry. His chest heaved to suck air, but there was none. He had to go to the surface now. I tried once more to pull the chain loose, but it was lodged tight. I let go and helped Jack. I drew a long breath from my mouthpiece, took it out, and gave it to Jack. He put it into his mouth and drew it deeply 3 times, then gave it back to me. We started toward the surface, 75 above, face to face, sharing my limited air supply. It seemed to take forever, but within a minute or two, we were safe. We broke the surface about 20 feet from the boat. A heavy rain was pelting down, making millions of small splashes as it hit right under our noses. I looked at the boat and saw Amos waving his arms madly. I couldn't wait to tell him what we had found. We swam over and climbed the ladder to the deck, smiling from ear to ear. Before I could speak, Amos said, "We've got to pull anchor and get to shelter. There's a marine weather warning of strong squalls moving over us, and a waterspout has been sighted. Let's move." "Amos, wait a minute. We found gold. There's a large chain down there. I uncovered about 2 feet of it, but it's stuck. I want to get back down and get it. It could be the biggest find yet." "That's right, Pop!" exclaimed Jack. "That chain must weigh 500 pounds. It's worth a fortune." "Whoa, partners. Look at that squall coming right at us," said Amos. "The radio says the wave maybe up to 15 feet in the squall line. Gold or no gold, we've got to haul up and haul out." Jack and I looked at the black wall of water rapidly approaching from the northeast. It looked pretty grim, with lightning and the sound of thunder rolling across the waves. "Look, Amos, you and Jack start hauling the anchors, and I'll put on a fresh tank and go back down to free the chain. By the time you get the stern lines freed, I'll be back with gold." "Wayne, that's a very bad idea. If the bow line snaps, we'll be unable to hold position. If you miss the boat, we'll never find you, and it's 5 miles to shore." "Amos, you're right, but you didn't see that gold chain. It has huge links, each carved up with little flowers. It's got to be from a treasure chest," Jack argued, already winding the port anchor rope around the pulley. We respected Amos's assessment of the conditions, but we had worked 2 years to find the main treasure area of the wreck site. Still, if he said no, we would abide by his decision.